The rain came down hard that evening, drumming against the hospital windows like a restless heartbeat. Inside, Nurse Emily Carter wiped her tired eyes and adjusted her mask. It was her fourth double shift that week. Her shoes were soaked, her hands cracked from sanitizer, but she didn't complain. For Emily, nursing wasn't just a job, it was a promise. A promise she'd made to her late mother, who'd once told her, kindness heals more than medicine ever could. But kindness was in short supply that night. As Emily walked into room 204, she found a patient yelling at a young intern. "I said I don't want her near me," the man shouted, pointing at Emily. He was a wealthy donor, one whose name was engraved on half the hospital's walls. Emily froze, unsure what she'd done wrong. "I just came to check your IV line," she said softly. "I don't care. I don't want her." His voice grew louder. "You people think you can boss everyone around because you wear scrubs. Get me someone else." The intern looked helpless. Moments later, Drive Matthews, the hospital's new administrator, stormed in. "Emily," he said coldly, "step out of the room. Now." Emily obeyed without a word, her heart pounding. An hour later, she was called into Matthews' office. The donor had filed a complaint, claiming she'd been rude, arrogant, and disrespectful. The same Emily who stayed after shifts to comfort patients, who bought food for those who couldn't afford it, and who never raised her voice even when exhausted. Matthews didn't care. "Effective immediately, you're suspended," he said. "We can't risk upsetting our top contributors." Emily's throat tightened. "Sir, I didn't do anything wrong. You can check the camera footage." "This is final," he interrupted, sliding a paper across the desk. "You may collect your belongings." Tears blurred her vision as she walked out of the hospital where she'd spent 7 years saving lives. The security guard, someone she'd shared coffee with countless times, looked down and whispered, "I'm sorry, Emily." That night, she sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by memories, thank you cards from patients, a photo of her in scrubs, and one of her brother, Jake, in his army uniform. Jake was deployed overseas, a decorated soldier known for his bravery and discipline. Emily didn't want to bother him with her troubles. But when he called the next morning, her voice cracked before she could even say hello. What's wrong?" She told him everything, haltingly, between sobs. Jake listened silently. When she finished, there was a pause. Then, in that calm, commanding voice she'd known since childhood, he said, "Don't worry, little sis. I'll take care of this." 2 weeks later, Jake walked into that same hospital, wearing his formal army uniform. His presence drew every eye. The medals on his chest gleamed under the fluorescent lights, but his expression was all steel. He went straight to the administrator's office. "Dr. Matthews," he said, his voice firm but controlled. "Yes." Matthews looked up, momentarily startled. "I'm Captain Jacob Carter, U.S. Army. I'm here about Nurse Emily Carter, my sister." "Oh, yes, well, that was an unfortunate situation." Jake held up a hand. "Unfortunate? You kicked out a nurse who worked through holidays, pandemics, and disasters because a rich man didn't like her. You called that unfortunate?" Matthews shifted uncomfortably. "We have to maintain donor relationships." The hospital. Jake interrupted. "You mean the one where my sister treated veterans for free during her off hours? The one where she stayed 3 nights straight after a flood to keep patients alive when generators failed?" The room fell silent. Staff had begun gathering outside the door, listening. Jake took a deep breath. "Let me tell you what real service looks like, Doctor. Out there on the battlefield, we don't care about rank or wealth. We care about integrity. And you just threw out the most honorable nurse in this place." He set a folder on the desk, a thick stack of signed letters. "These are from patients, doctors, and soldiers she's cared for. You can read every one of them. And if this hospital still has a shred of decency, you'll make things right." Then he saluted, turned on his heel, and left. The story spread through the hospital like wildfire. Nurses whispered it in corridors. Patients who'd once been treated by Emily wrote to the board. Within days, the hospital's inbox overflowed with letters demanding her reinstatement. Even the wealthy donor, embarrassed by the public outcry, issued an apology. The board called an emergency meeting. And by the end of the week, Emily was invited back, not as a nurse but as head nurse of patient care services. When she returned, the staff lined the hallways, clapping as she walked in. Tears filled her eyes. And standing at the end of the corridor was Jake, smiling proudly. She hugged him tightly. "You didn't have to do all that," she whispered. He chuckled. "I didn't fight for medals, Em. I fought so people like you could keep doing what's right." Months later, the hospital adopted a new policy, protecting nurses and staff from donor influence. They named it the Carter Code. And sometimes, late at night, Emily would stand by the window of her office, looking at the lights of the city. She still worked long hours, still comforted patients, but now, she carried something more than exhaustion. She carried pride, and the unshakable knowledge that one act of courage, one voice speaking truth, can heal even the most broken systems.